Hello everyone and welcome to my new tutorial on how to make this cute little octopus pin or needle holder. It's very easy and quick project to do. I learned how to make this octopus from my mother when I was very young, and after many years I still remember how to create it. I'm so excited to share it with you today, and I hope you enjoy this tutorial and love your finished piece. To create a similar size octopus, you will need chunky weight yarn. Also, you can use two strands of double knit held together, which give you a very similar thickness to chunky yarn. I'm using 100% acrylic yarn, but of course you can choose any fiber you like. If you use a much thicker yarn like this, it will create a larger version of the octopus that you can even turn into a stuffed toy. For this project, I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, even though the yarn label recommends a 6mm crochet hook, but I chose to go down one size to achieve a tighter stitches. If you're working with chunky or extra chunky yarn like this, I also recommend using a smaller hook to achieve a better result. Also, you will need one stitch marker, two safety eyes. I'm using 9mm safety eyes, scissors, and darning needle for weaving in the ends. Also the small amount of stuffing, less than 1 gram, but let's say around 1 gram, and also you can use leftover yarn tails as a stuffing to fill the inside. And now let's start our octopus. To start, you will need to create adjustable magic ring. I like to do this way, leave a longer yarn tail for weaving and securing the magic circle. Then I will take my yarn like this. This is the working end. I wrap around my two fingers to create an X. I hold onto that X and place this working yarn above this one. I insert my hook under the first strand, grab the yarn and pull it through, and then chain one with that working yarn. So this way you have adjustable magic ring. Now you will work into the magic ring and you need to make 8 single crochet stitches. So you insert your hook into the magic ring, grab the yarn, pull it through, yarn over and pull it through 2 loops. Now you have your first single crochet stitch. I always like to use a stitch marker, but the stitch marker is really optional. It just helps you track the first stitch. So now you need to make 7 more single crochet. I will do that off camera and meet you at the very end. When you finish the last 8 single crochet stitch, you can grab this yarn tail that left from the magic circle and you tighten up your magic ring. Now you need to join your round with a slip stitch, the last single crochet with the first single crochet, so you just insert your hook into the first single crochet and make a slip stitch. For the round 2, you need to chain 1, and that chain 1 never counts as the first stitch, so it means you need to work into the very first stitch where your chain 1 coming from, just right here. And now you need to make 2 single crochet into exactly the same stitch. I just made the first one and the second one into exactly the same stitch. This way you create an increase, and now you just need to repeat 2 single crochet in each stitch, and at the very end you should have 16 single crochet stitches. I will do that off camera and I'll meet you at the very end. And I'm at the very end. You can recount your stitches to make sure you have 16 around. I will remove my stitch marker and I will join my last single crochet with the very first single crochet by making a slip stitch. After this round, I recommend to pull up a bigger loop, insert your stitch marker into it just secure, and weave in this yarn tail that left from the magic circle. I like to weave in this tail by going around the very first row 2 times just to make sure it's secure. Then I will finish weaving in the yarn tail into the second row by going back and forth couple times. Round 3 is very simple. You just need to make one single crochet in every stitch around, and at the beginning you need to chain 1. Chain 1 does not count as the first stitch, and you will start working into that very first stitch where your chain 1 coming from, just right here. And you just make one single crochet into this very first stitch and continue with one single crochet in every stitch around. Just make sure that at the end you have 16 single crochet in total. I'll continue off camera and I'll meet you at the very end. At the end, join the round with a slip stitch, and after completing this round you will notice your work starting to take on a slightly ball-like shape. Always keep the right side facing you as you work. Remember that the wrong side is where the yarn tail coming from. For rounds 4 and 5, repeat exactly what you did in round 3. Work one single crochet in each stitch around and join the last stitch with the first stitch by making slip stitch at the end of every round. Also, at the end of every round you should still have a total of 16 single crochet stitches. I will make those 2 rounds off camera and I'll meet you at the very end of the round 5. Now when you finish the 5th round, remove your hook from the loop and replace with a stitch marker just to keep your loop secured. And the side where you have your stitch marker will be the back side of your octopus. Now position your work like this with the stitch marker in the back. You need to grab your first safety eye and place it between the 4th and 5th rounds. For the second safety eye, place it 2 stitches further from the first one. If you would like your eyes to be further apart or closer together, you can do that too. Now when you have your eyes placed into your work, you need to turn your work wrong side out and place the safety into the back. I've seen some people attach them this way, but I prefer to do like this. Then you just push the safety back to secure your eye. Now take the second safety pin and attach exactly the same way. I've had a couple times where my safety eyes popped out of that safety pin, so it's really a personal preference, but I like to make them more secure by using a lighter to slightly melt the back of safety eye. And once the plastic has melted, I press into a hard surface this way. I secure them even more, and this is really optional. I'm just sharing what I like to do with my safety eyes, but if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Now you need to turn your work right side out and remove the stitch marker, replacing it with your hook. We are going to start round 6. For this round, you will work back loop decreases. You need to chain 1 at the beginning, and where you see the V on the stitch, this is the V, and the back loop is right here. So you need to insert your hook into that back loop, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through, insert your hook into the next stitch back loop, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through. You have 3 loops on the hook. You yarn over and pull the yarn through those 3 loops on the hook. And you have your first decrease. Now you need to repeat this all the way around, and you will have 8 stitches at the end. So insert your hook into the next stitch back loop, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through, into the next stitch back loop, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and you pull the yarn through those 3 loops on the hook. You need to repeat those decreases all the way around. And at the very end, just join your work with a slip stitch, last single crochet with the first single crochet, and make sure you have 8 single crochets in total for your round 6. I will finish this round off camera and I'll meet you at the very end. At the very end, after you join your round, tighten up the yarn, and you need to leave a longer yarn tail. I left around 15 or 20 centimeters, something like this, and just fasten off. Tighten up the yarn tail that coming from your work, and you will see a small opening at the bottom where you need to add your stuffing. When you add the stuffing, it should feel slightly firm but not too firm or too soft. I have one octopus already finished so you can see how it looks, but in general you just stuff it to your preferred firmness. When you finished with your stuffing, you need to grab your darning needle and insert that yarn tail into the needle. You will be sewing the opening of your octopus, and you will be sewing through the front loops of the stitch, just right here. They are very visible. And you just insert that needle and push it through into the next stitch, and you just repeat all the way around until you reach the point from where you started. Now grab the yarn tail and tighten up so the opening closes. If you have a little stuffing showing, you can always use something to push it back inside. Tighten up the yarn a little bit more, and now you need to weave in this yarn tail. I like to go 2 times around the opening to make sure it's really secure. Then I will weave in my yarn tail into the next row from the opening, and then I will go back and forth a couple times through the octopus body itself. And now it's time for the tentacles, and you always join your tentacles into the back of the octopus. You will be joining into these stitches where you have this kind of round. When you did the creases into the back loops only, these are the front loops that you can see. Now you need to grab a new yarn. You can use the same color as for the octopus body or completely different color. To start making your tentacles, you need to insert your hook into that front loop of the stitch or this round. Then you will leave a longer yarn tail and you will join the yarn through the stitch. Now you need to leave a looser loop, basically the same height as you want your tentacles to be. If you want a small tentacles, you can do a smaller loop. If you want like super big tentacles, you can do even loop long like this, but I will choose to do like kind of the same size, so I just gonna make this way. I always like to keep my tail pressed with my finger on the back, so it's not gonna really slide anywhere. So you need to yarn over, insert your hook into exactly the same stitch where you join the yarn, yarn over, pull the yarn through, bring that loop to the height of your first loop, yarn over, pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook. Now you have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, insert your hook into exactly the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through, bring that loop to the height of your tentacle, yarn over, pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, and we will repeat one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull the yarn through, bring that yarn to the height of all tentacle, Yarn over, pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook. And when you have 4 loops on the hook, you can yarn over and pull the yarn through all 4 loops on the hook. So this way you created a bobble stitch for your tentacle, and now you need to join into the next stitch, not into the same where your tentacle coming, but into the next. So you insert your hook into the next stitch and you just make a slip stitch like this. Now we're gonna do one more slip stitch into the next. For the second tentacle, the process exactly the same. I will show you one more time. You need to bring that loop to the height of the same as before you did this. You need to yarn over, insert your hook into exactly the same stitch where you made your second slip stitch, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through the stitch, bring that loop to the height of the first one, yarn over, pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, insert your hook into exactly the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through, bring to the height of all loops on the hook, yarn over, pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, and repeat one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook into exactly the same stitch, grab the yarn, pull the yarn through the stitch, bring that loop to the height of all loops, yarn over, pull the yarn through 2 loops on the hook, and when you have 4 loops on the hook, you need to yarn over and pull the yarn through all 4 loops on the hook. And now you will make slip stitch again into the next stitch on the octopus body. So not the same one, but the next. And you made your first slip stitch. Now you make another slip stitch into the next loop. And now you need to repeat your tentacles exactly the same as you did for the second until you have 8 tentacles around. So I will do that off camera and I'll meet you at the very end when we need to join the tentacles together and do our final touches. Now when you finish your 8th tentacle, you can count if you really have 8 around. Also at the very end you have just 1 stitch on octopus body, so you need to join your tentacle with that stitch. You join by making slip stitch as before, and then you will join with the first tentacle where you joined your yarn at the beginning of this round. You make 1 slip stitch into that place as well. And you tighten up. Now just leave a little bit longer yarn tail, cut the yarn and fasten off. Tighten up again. And you basically have your octopus ready. You just need to weave in those yarn tails. What I like to do, I like to make a knot. Pretty tight one. 2 times. And then I will weave in my yarn tail into the octopus body itself. So I'm gonna go through the tentacle straight into the body, to the top. I push the needle gently, and then I will go through the same gap into another direction through the octopus body, just like this. But be careful here, do not push too hard. And now I just weave in the yarn tail into the bottom of the octopus. Repeat exactly the same way for the second yarn tail. And your octopus is ready. You can use it for needles, stitch markers, or anything else you need for. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them all. Thank you again, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.